inquisitive. She's always asking questions about everything, right? We've had the same lady in all our PowerPoints. So sometimes we see that in a school, there's two students, right? You both are students, you go to school? So there's sometimes two students, and one student works very, very hard, is very honest, he studies all through the year, and then there's another student who's very frivolous. I mean, not too frivolous, he's serious enough, but still, he watches 50 movies a week or a month. You know, he goes to all the parties possible, he goes to all the games possible, and one day before, you know, the exam, he just crams up everything. And then the results come for both of them. They both take the exams and the results come. And lo and behold, it so happens that the student who worked very hard all through somehow fails in one subject. And the other one, you know, just gets A+ in everything. Do such things happen sometimes? We've seen in our lives, don't they? Right? So why? And that's to speak of students. And then what about professionals sometimes? This maybe you relate with more. That, you know, one person is very hardworking and honest, always comes on time, but somehow he keeps getting in trouble. And there's another person who's very political, manipulative, dishonest, envious, proud, everything, and he keeps getting promotions. Does it happen? Anybody experience something like that in your life? Or am I the only one odd person here? Right? You all experienced. Hare Krishna. Thought you were not coming. Welcome. We just started. So I was just giving some scenarios where, you know, people seem to do the right things, whether little kids or adults, you know. They seem to do all the right things, and still something not right happens when they get the result, right? So why, right? And then we've discussed some of these other things of how some are fabulously rich and some are wretchedly poor, some are strong and healthy, and some are just born so weak, or they're just born physically challenged or handicapped, and some are just born blind and they never see the light. So why do these things happen? Why all these differences? Is it because God is partial? Why do innocent children sometimes get killed even, right? Or sometimes there's children that are born and they die right after they're born, or they're born with some very severe, you know, deformity. So they die soon after that. Or sometimes they're stillborn babies even, right? So why? They didn't do anything wrong, right? At least we can say adults, maybe they did something wrong. But what about these children? They didn't do anything wrong. And apart from that, there's so much other suffering also all around us, right? We see shootings, innocent people being killed, and train accidents, and earthquakes, and, you know, all kinds of calamities. So is God really so unkind and cruel? And we do see in our life that there are many people, when something bad happens, they actually turn into atheists. You've all seen Hindi movies, right? Sometimes you see something happens to the hero, and the heroine goes to the temple, and it's raining and it's thunderstorms, and the heroine goes and she bangs the temple bells and she goes to God and says, "Tum pattaro ki Bhagwan ho," right? You've seen scenes like that. Are you God or are you a stone? You know, how can you do this to me, right? So is it because God is very unkind and cruel? Or is it because of some planets like Shani, right? In India, any problems you have and you go to an astrologer, they tell you Shani lagi hai, you know? Or it's Rahu, or, you know, Ketu, or Mars, or something. Is it just that? Or is it Satan, or what is it? Tell you a little story of where we got this title from too. There was a Jewish rabbi, His name was Harold Kushner. He's here. Harold Kushner. And he used to preach to everyone to love God, to serve God and everything. And then he had a son. And when his son was 7 years old, he got diagnosed with this disease called progeria. How many of you know what progeria means? You know. Yeah. So this is a disease basically where one starts aging very rapidly. The child may be 7 years old, but he will look much, much older. Everything starts aging very rapidly. So actually he lost his child when he was 14 years old. And so he was a strong believer of God. But then when this happened, he was really thinking, what is this? He couldn't say that God doesn't exist because he believes that God is there. He's read so much about God. He's preached so much about God. But then he was thinking, if God is there, then how can this happen? And that's what prompted him to write this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And in this book, he reasons, okay, if bad things have to happen to good people, then, God, maybe he's all-powerful and all-knowing, but maybe he's not all-merciful. Or all loving. Or maybe he is all loving and all knowing. He knows what is happening with my child. My child didn't do anything wrong. He's just 7 years old and this happened to him. And maybe God knows and maybe he's very loving, but he's just not potent. He just doesn't have any power to do anything. Or he said, well, maybe he's all loving and he's all powerful, but he doesn't know what's going on. So therefore he couldn't do anything. So this was his reasoning, that basically he conveyed the meaning, he made God limited in some way. And, and he wrote this book. But this is not actually what the Vedas declare. We already discussed, when we discussed who is God and does God exist, we already discussed that the Vedas declare that actually God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and he is all-loving, right? Some other little stories, just to illustrate. There was one family. Who recognizes the ship? Titanic, yes. The one and only Titanic. So there was one family named Smart Family in Scotland. And they had actually saved up all their life just so that they could go on vacation. And just before they were going on vacation on this Titanic, right, what happened was that their son got bitten by a dog. And, he was quarantined. He couldn't and the whole family was quarantined, actually. And then that time he was thinking, why this had to happen, why this happened. All my life I saved all my money to do this. But then later he was thanking God because, they didn't go on this ship. This ship, sunk. And he was thanking God. And what about people in the ship? Of course they were asking, why did this happen to us on this maiden voyage, right? So should God hear the Smart Family, or should God hear what the other people are saying? Or I've heard so many stories of, even when this 9/11 thing happened, I know of devotees who used to work in these Twin Towers. In fact, Badrinarayan Swami, one of our sannyasis, Prabhupada's disciple, two of his daughters, one works in Pentagon and one works in these Twin Towers. And that day, somehow, both of them were supposed to fly into DC from Boston, and the other was supposed to fly from San Francisco into New York, and both their flights got canceled, and they got saved. But there were lots of others who were in the Twin Towers, and they did not get saved. I know of one person who used to work on the top floor, and just a few minutes before this plane hit, actually, she went down to a lower floor to make some copies. She went for a copying machine, and she was saved because she was on this lower floor, and then she just ran down. So how does this all happen? Is God doing all this really? Because that's where our attention usually goes. Why is God doing this to me? Or is it Satan or some evil tantric powers? Somebody somewhere is doing something. Is it the planets? Or is it just our misfortune? Right? So tell you another little story. So there's this construction workers here. And there was the owner who was making all this construction happen. So he was on the top floor of the neighboring building, and he wanted to get the attention of these construction workers. So he called them first, but none of them heard. And then he tried to throw like a dollar bill down. And, they saw it, and then they just put it in the pocket, and they continued working. Then he threw a $10 bill down. And then, they put that in the pocket as well. $50 bill, put it in the pocket as well. So he couldn't catch their attention really. And then what he does is that he throws a little stone. And as soon as he throws a little stone, immediately they look up. Hey, why are you, hitting us with a stone? Well, I tried to get your attention in other ways, but you didn't respond, So this is actually our story of life also. God is giving so many things. Well, we don't ask Him when He gives all the good things, why did you give this to me? Why did you give that to me? Why did I get a beautiful wife? Why did I get this cute little child, this most beautiful child? Right? We don't ask. But when our child gets a little hurt, or when we don't get a promotion, or when our boss does something, then we ask, why me? Why me? Right? Or when we don't get a job, then we ask, why me? Right? How many of you know this person? Arthur Ashe, yeah. He was a famous tennis player, Wimbledon player. And he was actually dying of AIDS because of getting some infected blood. And many people at that time wrote to him some letters. And one of them asked, why is God doing this to you? And this is what he said. He said that the world over, 50 million children start playing tennis. 5 million learn to play tennis. 500,000 learn professional tennis. 50,000 come to the circuit. 5,000 reach the Grand Slam. 50 reach Wimbledon, 4 to semi-final, 2 to the finals. And when I was holding a cup, I never asked God, why me? And today in pain, I should not be asking God, why me also? Right? It's a nice lesson to learn. So, in order to understand the subject matter, we have to understand the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita properly. So there is anybody knows what are the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita? You can tell me? Anybody? You know? You know? You don't know? Yeah, tell me. Kala, time. Ishvara, it's on the screen. Who are we? Living entities? Karma, yes. Prakriti, or material nature. That's it, done. So these are the 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. There's Ishvara, everybody should memorize. There's Ishvara, the Jiva or the living entities. There's Kala, Karma, and Prakriti. Out of these, we've discussed 2 of these topics, right? We've discussed Ishvara and we've discussed Jiva to some extent. So we're going to discuss the other 3 topics today to properly understand everything in perspective. So it is said that anyone who understands these 5 topics will never be bewildered in any circumstance of life. So we'll start with Prakriti, or material nature. So if you remember this picture, You still remember this picture? So this is the spiritual world, or Goloka Vrindavan. And then this whole thing is the spiritual sky. And these are all the Vaikuntha planets, or the spiritual planets. And in a small corner is the entire material world. So this is blown up over here. So this is Mahavishnu, and there's many, many universes. So the whole of material creation, it is described to be only Ekapad Vibhuti. So that means that it is only 1/4 of the entire manifestation. 3/4 is the spiritual world, and 1/4 is actually the creation of the Lord, or the material creation. And it consists of millions of universes, as we can see. And our universe is like an insignificant mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds. There are so many universes, and our universe is one of the smallest universes, actually. And in all these universes, there is one universe that is ours. And in our universe, there is so many planets. And in all these planets, the Earth planet is one planet. And in this Earth planet, then there's so many countries, right? And then in all these countries, we are in the United States of America right now, one country. And in this one country, there's 50 states. And we are in the state of Illinois. And Illinois, there are so many cities. And we're in the state of Naperville, in the city of Naperville right now. And in the city of Naperville, there's so many little subdivisions. And in each subdivision, there's so many houses. And in all those so many houses, there's one house that we live in. And in each house, there's many living entities. And out of all those living entities, there's not only just humans. Remember, there's other living entities too that we discussed about. And out of all those living entities, we are just one portion of them. And we think we are very great, and we deserve this and we deserve that. But actually, we are quite insignificant when you consider the vastness of the whole manifestation. So the material nature, as we heard before, is Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam, meaning that it is a place of misery. And even if you're enjoying, the thing is that it is Ashashvatam, it's temporary. We discussed this point. Whereas the spiritual world is Vaikuntha. So now we can ask this question: why did God create the material world? Why not just only the spiritual world? Right? So now I want to ask all of you a question. If you wanted to create a city, what are some things you would think of while planning? What all things should a city have? Quickly tell me, what are some things that you would want the city to have? Water, okay. Parks, playgrounds, okay. Transportation, electricity, sorry? Hospitals and schools, okay. What else? Roads, drainage, what else? Okay, internet, come on. Let's not get into the nitty-gritties. Let's think big a little bit. Huh? People? Okay, people will populate the city, sure. But what do you need in the city? What else do you need? Restaurants, okay. What else? Temples, okay, very good. Places of worship, yes. What else? Good surroundings, okay. Okay. Police, okay, good. Okay, police. Fire brigades, okay. Anything else we need? We need a prison house. Okay. How many of you agree that we need a prison in a city? Okay, yeah, some of you don't agree. You don't agree? Huh?
It's not on the top priorities.
It's not on the top priority. Okay. But if you're in charge of building the city, would you build a prison?
Maybe it will be a phase.
Phase.
Before
Okay,
the
phase 10.
first, yeah.
Phase
Right.
10. But you'll build a prison. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay. Good. So, all good answers, right? So here's a prison. That's what we're going to pick on. So why should we have a prison in a city? You said we should have a prison. What's the purpose of a prison?
It's like ostracizing someone for doing something.
Ostracizing. Is that the purpose of the prison?
Yeah, I mean, to make them realize that there is something wrong that they have done.
Okay.
I mean, not only ostracizing, but at the same time probably giving them a lesson that shouldn't be repeated.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how many are really reform-oriented prisons, or the, I mean, I do not know if prisons really do any reforms. That also is, I guess.
Yes. Yes. So the main purpose actually is not just to ostracize, but it is to protect the citizens and, to give them a place where they can actually be reformed. And if it is a severe crime, of course, they're finished. It's life imprisonment, or it is even they're sentenced to death. So, I'm going to give you some unpleasant news, which you may not like to hear. Sadly, the material world is like a prison house. Although we may not like to hear that, it is actually a fact. It is compared to a prison house. And why is this prison of the material world created? Oh, well, first let's just go through. I have this other slide, I forgot. So prison is created, yes, it's a very costly affair, but always there are going to be certain miscreants, because every single person never follows the law, and therefore we need this place. And instead of just shooting them down, at least the hope is that if you take them to this prison, then gradually they may rectify themselves. Some may not, and some keep going back to the prison again and again, even after being released. But the hope is that they'll get reformed. And also, another question is, in the prison, what kind of things do they have usually? They have all the basic necessities. But yet, there is restriction of some kind. You don't feel very, very comfortable, right? It is, it's not too miserable where a person cannot live, but also all basic necessities. They are given food, they have a place to sleep, they can drink and they can go out sometimes and so on, right? So this is why a material prison is created. So what kind of people are sent to the material prison? Anybody knows? What kind of people are sent to the material prison? What is our fault, actually? Yes? People who are envious of God. So the fact is, earlier we said that the material world is only 1/4 of the whole manifestation, and the spiritual world is 3/4. The fact is that we all belonged in that 3/4 creation. Once upon a time, we were there with Krishna. We were serving him, we were loving him and everything. But one fine day, we said, I want to leave because I want to be my own Lord. We somehow or the other become envious of the Lord. And this is very difficult to understand how we become envious, but somehow or the other it happens. And we say, so here's a living entity. This is the spiritual world where everything is all wonderful, but the living entity uses his free will. The living entity always has a small, minute free will. Okay, because remember we talked about love means that out of my volition I love someone. If somebody puts a gun on your head, at your head, and says, love me, that's not, you can't love like that. So a living entity always has minute free will. So although we were loving Krishna, serving God, but somehow we become envious and we say that we want to enjoy separately from him. And Krishna says, don't go, don't go. You can actually not, you cannot enjoy separately from me because you belong to me. And your happiness depends on, cooperating with me properly and aligning yourself to my desires. And you will not be happy. But we are insistent, like a rebellious teenager, we're insistent. And so then Krishna creates the material world. Actually, there's no purpose of the material world is not necessary. As much as a prison is not necessary, material world is not necessary. But yet, there will always be some living entities who wouldn't want to follow the laws of God, and therefore the material world has always existed also. So there's this nice verse in Bhagavad Gita which tells us that what actually causes us to come to the material world. O sign of Bharata, conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. So the material world, why do we come here? Due to desire, Ichha. Our desire is to be God. We want to feel like we are the lords and masters, the controllers, the creators, the proprietors, all these things we talked about before, right? And so because we want to be God, as soon as we have a desire to be the enjoyer, immediately the next thing comes is dvesha or hate, which is hatred or envy of God. Because if I want to enjoy, someone else shouldn't actually have that, right? It's a threat for me. So then there is envy. And the result is that we are sent to the material world where God hides himself from us because we cannot actually enjoy in this material world as long as we remember who we are. So the first thing that happens when we come to the material world is we get covered by illusion. We are placed in illusion. In fact, in the secondary creation, one day when you read Bhagavatam, you will read this, that Brahma, the first thing he creates is ignorance. So he covers the living entities with ignorance so that they can actually try to enjoy separately. Because as long as they know who they are, they cannot. So they have to assume a false identity. So everything actually belongs to God. So we actually cannot enjoy separately from him. So he gives us this play place, just like a little girl may say, I want to cook, I want to cook, I want to cook. So the mommy goes and buys a play kitchen, right? Or a play house, or a toy car that you can actually pretend drive, right? But actually, you cannot fulfill your eating, your hunger, just with this play. When real hunger comes, then the child goes running to the mommy, give me food, give me food. Oh, you made your own food, why don't you eat that? It doesn't satisfy. And that is actually also our experience in this material world. Although we are trying to enjoy, there's always this nagging sense of dissatisfaction, and we are not actually enjoying. Right? Because the real thing is absent, the substance is absent. This is actually, material world is actually like a reflection. So we are put into illusion. Without that, we cannot enjoy separately from God. Now, some of you may say, where is the restriction in the material world? I don't actually feel like it is a prison. How many of you would say that? Do you feel any restriction in this material world? Or you don't? All the time. Yeah, and sometimes a lot. And yet sometimes people who don't think a little more deeply, they may say, oh, there's no restriction, I'm free. Okay, maybe I'm not free here, but I'll figure out another way how to become free. So this thinking only happens in illusion. It's actually not a reality. We are restricted. The very fact that we cannot enjoy permanently or unlimitedly in this material world, even if you like rasagulla, how much can you eat? 100? Maybe? I don't know what's the Guinness Book of World Records for rasagullas. But you can eat maybe 100, but you can't eat that forever. There's a limitation. So we are made to realize this by the material nature. And also, it's very difficult to get out. The very word Durga is in charge of this material world. The very word dur means very difficult, and ga means to get out. So it's very difficult to get out of the material world. Because Durga is a servant of Krishna, and Durga's service is to make sure that we stay in the prison and we don't get out, just like a prison guard, right? A prison guard, even if you're behaving nicely, they remind you that, you can't have too much fun here, So Durga reminds us, you just can't have too much fun here, and even if you're trying to get out, you really have to prove yourself to be innocent, and really you have to love God with all your heart, and otherwise she's not going to release you. So in the prison scenario, the restriction is with the prison cell itself restricts, the prison guard restricts, and there's chains and ropes. So we can use this analogy. So in the prison house itself is like the material world, as we said, and the material body that we are in, we said that there's 8.4 million species of life, and we are in different species, right? So the particular body that we are in, that's like a cell within the prison house. And then there is the three modes of material nature, which are actually like the chains or ropes. In fact, in Sanskrit, the word for the three modes is the three gunas. And the very word guna means rope. So here's a rope, and here's the three modes. And constantly, these three modes are acting on all of us. We think that we are doing something, but actually always these three modes are acting on us. So let's look at it further. So this is a nice verse in the Vishnu Purana, which is telling us about all the different living entities. Jalaja navalakshani sthavara lakshavimsiti kramayo rudra sankhyaya pakshinam dasha lakshanam trimsa lakshani pashava chatur lakshani manusha. So the material nature provides the soul with a particular body within the 8.4 million species of life. So in a prison, you have different grades of cells, right? You have A class, B class, C class. So maybe the A class, maybe some big politician or a very wealthy person goes into it, and they have a lot of comforts. They have AC. Of course, I think in this country, all grades of prisons have air conditioning. But anyway, they have more comforts. They have a better bed. They have better living facilities. Then you have the B cell. Maybe they're the regular kind of pickpocketers and small-time thieves and stuff like that. And then there is the C, the lower ones, where it's just, the hardcore, heavy criminals. And these cells are literally like dungeons. There's no proper light. There's just a little hole for food, and it's just very hard circumstances, difficult circumstances. So you can also compare this to the heavenly planets, where there's a lot of comforts, the earthly planets, and then the hellish planets. And based on our situation, which planetary system we are in, and which body we are in, that is basically our confinement. So here is the different numbers of this verse. So there's 8.4 million species of life, and of which there is 900,000 aquatic species. There is 2 million forms of trees and plants, and then there's insects, life 1.1 million, and there's birds, another 1 million, and four-legged animals, about 3 million, and then the human form of life, there's 400,000. So you can see, we think that, human beings are just one. But actually, there's 400,000 species even within the human being. So how is this? These different gradations of human beings even, or for that matter, all these living entities, it's based on the level of consciousness. It's based on the development of our consciousness. So it's basically what karma or what activities we have done. Based on that, we get a particular body. And the further we turn our back on God, basically, the further we travel away from God. You can literally like imagine you're in front of God, turn your back, and you start walking away. You remember that picture I showed you, that little living entity turning his back and walking? The further we walk away, further and further away from God, the more we are going to experience restriction in our life. We keep walking further and further away, thinking that we are going to get more and more freedom, right? But actually we will find that we will feel more and more restricted by the modes of material nature. So here, just very quickly here, you can see there's lifetime, there's residence qualities. So God, of course, He's eternal, there's no beginning or end. He's in the spiritual world, eternal, blissful love, no miseries. The demigods who are in the heavenly planets, they live for millions, zillions of years. Brahma lives for zillions of years. They're in the higher planetary system, and there's more enjoyment, less misery. The humans, hundreds to thousands of years. Now, we're lucky if we live 100, but in the previous ages, they used to live thousands of years. And they can be in the middle planetary systems, or sometimes they can go to the lower planetary systems too. And then there's the animals, trees. They can go anywhere from few moments to thousands of years. So you can see the range of freedom. The more pious a living entity is, the more the range of freedom. And the more impious, it just gets more and more restricted. And when somebody is on the level of transcendence, there's unlimited freedom, just like Narad Muni. You know, he can travel anywhere he wants in the three worlds. He just goes with his veena anywhere, right? So the material nature, it consists of the three modes. So like I said, guna means rope. And these ropes, there's three, but then, you know, you keep like intertwining them again and again and again. So you can see it becomes very thick. And sometimes ropes, you know, they can even a rope is used even to like anchor a ship, right? A ship can be, it's really huge, like tons it weighs. But a rope can, you know, be an anchor for a ship. And similarly, actually these gunas, these are the three modes, but they're intertwined, and they hold us within this material world to particular natures. So the soul, it can travel a lot of distances maybe physically, but yet they're tied down by the particular body they have, you know. And each of our bodies, it's made up of these three modes. So there is the goodness, passion, and ignorance. These are the three modes. And we're going to discuss a little bit about these three modes. And as we discuss, we'll immediately come to understand which mode predominantly affects us. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, material nature consists of three modes, goodness, passion, ignorance. And when the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So now let us try to understand each of these modes. So this is describing the mode of goodness. So the mode of goodness, mala means contamination or sinful desires. But the mode of goodness is nirmalatvat. So it frees one from all sinful reactions. One who is in the sattva guna, he is much more pure, and therefore he can actually prakashakam, he can see, he can discriminate properly. Also because he has knowledge, jnana sangena chanaga. So he has knowledge in the sattva guna, and he's conditioned by this sense of knowledge and happiness. So when one can see properly, there is automatically some happiness that comes from that. They're not doing sinful activities. So our suffering in this world actually happens because of sin. Any suffering that we experience in this world, it is because there has been some sin. So if one is in goodness, they are much purer, so therefore they're happy naturally. Then there is the mode of passion. So the mode of passion is characterized by unlimited desires and hankering. They just have so many desires. So because they have so many desires, they always have to work so hard to fulfill all those desires. Prabhupada would say, like all the big cities, their foundation of big cities is the mode of passion. It takes so much hard work. So the more you have desires, the more there's hard work. And so then you have to fulfill your desires. So naturally then when you're working hard, you want the results of your activities, right? So you're driven by this fruitive mentality within this mode of passion. And so then you become bound by it more and more. You see how it happens. So there is a desire, then you get some result, and even you get the result, you want more of that, right? We've all been through this exercise in our life, right? We come to US, first we think, okay, it's an apartment, I have to get a house, I have to get a green card, then I have to get citizenship, then it just keeps getting upgraded, and you keep thinking that, okay, when I get a job, or when I go to college, and when I get a job, when I get married, then I'll become happy, right? But it just seems to escape us, the happiness. And the desires keep increasing even though you keep trying to fulfill them. And then the mode of ignorance, it's characterized by what? What do you see in this picture? It's laziness, depression, dark activities, destructive activities. So here you can see it's characterized by madness, indolence, and sleep. This is what happens when we are affected by the mode of ignorance. And everything in this world is actually divided into the three modes. Every single thing. Anything on the material platform is divided. So even the day is divided. So early morning activities, it's the mode of goodness. Where do you see activities early in the morning? Where do you see some activity happening? Temples, where else? Work. Okay. Parks, okay. Parks or yoga places, typically. Of course, nowadays people go very early to work, unfortunately, because the passion has expanded too much. But usually sunrise to sunset is when the passion starts building up. And where do you see activity? During sunrise to sunset? Office, schools, right? These kind of places. So this is passion. The moment it is 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, you have to do activities. Try chanting at 8:30 or something. It just won't happen. Your mind is going to be so restless when you try to start chanting at 9 o'clock, because the whole world is beginning to work at that time. So then we get influenced by that energy. So the mind is very, very like all over the place. And evening and night, where do you see activity? Pubs. Yeah, where else? Restaurants. Where else? Discos, movies, whatever, right? And, or, casinos and gambling places and brothels and, these kind of places. So you can see that is mode of ignorance. It's dark activities. Even our food is divided into sattva, rajas, tamas. So sattva is basically juicy, wholesome, milk, vegetables. These kind of foods are sattva. Whereas passion is hot, pungent, too sour, too salty, right? Dry, burning. These actually cause disease, and people get affected by this, right? And some people say, oh, I was just used to eating this kind of food because I grew up like that. But why were we born in such a place? Because already, we are influenced by the mode of passion. So therefore, then we take birth in such a family who eats, more chilies. I had an aunt, actually my husband's aunt. She lives in Erie. One time she asked us to buy vegetables because they were not getting that many Indian vegetables and chilies and all that. And she asked us to get 5 pounds of chilies. I said, really? Like 5 pounds of chilies, And when we went to their house, there was more chilies than coconut in the coconut chutney, So anyway, so influenced by the mode of passion. And then there is the mode of ignorance foods. So these are foods, this is according to Bhagavad Gita, foods prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten. Of course, if you offer to Krishna, then that is fine. Prasadam can be eaten even the next day if it's not spoiled. Food that is tasteless, decomposed, putrid, and food consisting of remnants of untouchable things. And also what you see up here, that is all in the mode of ignorance. So everything. So the more one's consciousness is covered over, the more the original consciousness is not manifested, the pure consciousness. So the goodness is the best of all because it is least covered. So these three modes actually bind the conditioned soul. And all living entities are influenced by it. And when that soul comes in contact with a particular mode of material nature, it acts according to that mode. And everything, like I said, so even when we seek happiness on the material platform, we are influenced by it. So for example, somebody who's in the sattva guna, the kind of music that they will like, it'll have some rhythm and there's soft and nice, it's soothing. Whereas somebody who's influenced by the mode of passion, it has to be very loud, at least the windows have to break, the car has to vibrate, Yesterday I was driving somewhere and the whole car was going, somebody next to me like that. And somebody in the mode of ignorance, it's not even really music. They sing anything. Basically there's no meaning in what they sing. They just say the sun is this, the moon is this, and whatever. They just make a song out of anything. There's no meaning to anything that they do really. And it's very destructive. Or the dress one wears. The home environment too is influenced by the modes. Somebody's house, you go, the whole house is in the middle of house, everything in the house. Whatever they want, they just take from there. Nothing is in the cupboard. Right? That's mode of ignorance. It's just cluttered. And when everything is cluttered, your mind doesn't work properly. Whereas somebody in the sattva guna, everything is in its place, it's clean, it's neat. A person in the mode of goodness is very thoughtful, he plans and so on. Whereas mode of passion, I decide this moment and I get up and go. I used to have a friend here in Chicago. Every time we used to go to yatras or something, Prabhu, are you coming for the yatra? I'm not sure. And then one day before, at midnight, he would buy the ticket, for the next day. And somehow he would get last minute deals. It's like, how do you even do that, It's too much. So anyway, as you can see, everything is influenced by the modes. And we helplessly act according to the impulses of the modes. We think that we are making choices, but actually we're being helplessly moved by these modes. Just like we all have experience sometimes. We don't want to do something, like a diabetic shouldn't be eating, sugar. But they're maximum drawn to sugar, to sweets. Why? Because these modes are pushing them. They have no control, right? Or sometimes we see some people really like to help others, whereas some others just like to harass others. What is it? One is goodness, one is ignorance. So you can see all around we are influenced and we are controlled by the modes. And so our pure spiritual nature is perverted by the impure desires born of the three modes. And based on this, then we take our birth in different species of life and in different planets. So that's about material nature. The next topic is time. Time is a very mystical topic. We'll discuss it a little bit. So Kala is the time factor. What is time actually? Time is Krishna's energy. Some of you may have watched Mahabharata in India. Every time Mahabharata starts, it says, Main samay ho, right? So time is actually Krishna's energy. Krishna says, Kalo asmi, I am time. And it's actually the most powerful force in the material world, although it cannot be seen. And amongst all killers, time is the ultimate, right? Can anybody stop the influence of time? No. And the nature of time is that it devours everything. it makes everything gets degraded. Nobody can escape the influence of time. And ultimately, time comes as death too. And time influences everyone, no matter how powerful you are. Even you have created big, big empires like Napoleon and Hitler, big empires. But where are they now? Time destroyed them. I just heard today that maybe Trump will voluntarily resign. He tried to be, he's trying to be our president, but he's not doing a good job. So time, the influence of time is acting on Trump also. And time is sometimes compared to the waves of ocean. Sometimes we go up, sometimes we go down by the influence of time where we are. Sometimes it's called Kala Sarpa, or the snake of time, right? Sometimes we see the snake is swallowing a mouse, and the mouse, is still trying to eat something that it was eating, right? And we are like that sometimes. Although time is acting on all of us too, we are thinking we can enjoy. In the Bhagavatam, there's a nice description, one place, of how we keep trying to enjoy in this material world. Like there is a man, who slips from a cliff, and he's holding on to the branch, edge of the branch, and on the branch is, a snake. No, actually not a snake. There's an elephant which is shaking the trunk, and then in the bottom there is a pit of snakes, and there is a mouse, a rat cutting off also the branches, and there is a beehive, and from the beehive some honey is dropping, and it falls into the mouth of this man, and the person thinks, oh, it's not so bad, And that's that's how Bhagavatam describes our condition in this material world, that all around there's stuff happening. It's, there's miseries and there's destruction and everything is happening, but we keep thinking it's not so bad. I will turn another way. I'm getting some enjoyment. And we keep trying to enjoy. Sorry to make it a little morbid, but this is the truth of our life. So time devours everything, and time causes transformations in the Prakriti, the cycles of the universe, and the 6 transformations, if you remember, birth, and then we grow for some time, produce byproducts, dwindles, and finally dies. So time is also sometimes described as an expert gambler, that one moment we have everything, and then the next moment it's gone. It's gone, just like that, it's gone, right? So, but the fact of the matter is the soul cannot actually be touched by time. It is only the body that is touched by time. Spirit cannot be touched by time. So the way we get affected by time also depends on which kind of body we are in. The experience of our time is very different depending on the body we are in. So time is also cyclical. It's not linear, as you can see here. There's Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Sati Yuga, and then it keeps repeating itself like that. So this is something about the time factor. This is also influencing us. So this is something we should consider when events are happening in our life. Then the next is karma. You see in this picture, what goes around comes around. That's how karma is often described. So he's killing a cow, and in the next life, he will be killed by the cow. In fact, it is said in our scriptures, it's very heavy, that if one kills a cow, one has to come back as many times as there are hairs on a cow and actually get killed. So it's very heavy. So karma. So what's the definition of karma? Karma is defined as activity that's performed by a living entity who's conditioned by the 3 modes of material nature and who is under the purview of time. So are all of us doing some karma? Yes, all of us are under the modes, and we are working under the purview of time. So we're doing it all the time. We're doing karma all the time. So we're going to discuss now about the laws of karma. Very, very complicated. Krishna says that it's very difficult to understand because there's so many laws and they're all at play together. So it's very difficult in one sense to understand, but we're going to give it a try, right? So Newton says his third law of motion states what? Every action. Very good. All of you took physics classes. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So that means actually every action that we perform on a material platform, there is a consequence for that. Every single action, there is a consequence for that. Everything that we speak, every single thing that we do, everything. So how careful we have to be at every step of our life. If we unconsciously do things, there's consequences for that. So the Bible says that the mills of God grind slowly but surely, that it never fails. The God's laws always work. So here's something from the Bible actually, that you reap what you sow. So make sure you sow good seeds. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever, I can't see from here, a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Right? Now this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So what we sow, that is what is going to come back. So, or what goes around, that's what is going to come around. He can't see it coming around behind him. He's just seeing the front, but he doesn't know that it's coming around behind him. So who is actually witnessing all our activities? Who's witnessing? You remember? We discussed in the last class, somebody is witnessing. No, we just want one right now. Who is witnessing all our activities? Which form of the absolute truth? Paramatma. Very good, very good. Good. This is the verse we discussed last time, if you remember. Upadrashta Anumanta. So it says that yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who's the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter and who is known as the Super Soul. So the Super Soul within our heart, he's always witnessing all our activities. We may forget, but he doesn't forget. So the judge, he awards rigorous imprisonment to one person, and he may award millions of dollars to another person. So is the judge, why is he doing these different things? Why is he giving different judgments? Is it the fault of the judge? What do you think? Is it the fault of the judge? Of course, sometimes some judges are bribed and whatever, but at least we're talking about a good judge here. It's not the fault of the judge. Is he partial? He's not partial. So it's based on the activities of the individual. The judge gives different judgments according to the law. And so similarly, the Super Soul, he's witnessing and he's sanctioning something through the agency of the material nature. How the material nature acts on us, that Super Soul is just sanctioning. But he's not responsible. We are responsible. So now let us discuss some other laws. So there's types of karma. There's good karma, as we all know. Sorry? Yes, bad karma too. So good karma is basically activities that are done according to the prescription of the scriptures. Remember, we talked about scriptures being the manual, right? So if we do activities based on that, then it's good karma. It's basically, in simple words, following the rules of God. Even if you want to enjoy, do it by following the rules of God. Then it's good karma. And bad karma is when activities are done with total disregard to the scripture. It's just, I want this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get it by hook or crook, doesn't matter. No consideration of anything. So completely disregarding. And our scriptures tell us that 4 things are particularly considered very sinful or very bad, and these are these 4 things: meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. And there's a reason why they say that. The reason is that when one engages in meat eating, then it kills the principle of mercy. And you see it all around. The more people are doing that, the more people seem to get more and more hard-hearted, and the compassion seems to be going away. And gambling takes away truthfulness, and illicit sex takes away cleanliness, not just in terms of external cleanliness, but the cleanliness of the heart. And intoxication takes away any ability to perform any austerity. And these are actually the 4 pillars of religion. So when we engage in these sinful activities, it kills these 4 pillars of religion. So therefore, Scripture tells us that these are not to be done, especially. Now we may say, well, meat eating, is it really so sinful? It seems like certain scriptures recommend it, even within our Puranas. Maybe some scriptures recommend it. So we should understand this properly. That there are 18 Puranas. Even the Puranas are within the 3 modes. There are 6 Puranas in the Sattva-guna, 6 for those, not the Purana itself is not in the Sattva-guna, but meant for those in the Sattva-guna, meant for those in the Rajaguna, and meant for those in the Tamaguna. So now when somebody is in Tamaguna, their consciousness is very, very low. So they want to engage in this activity anyway. So then the scripture says, okay, do it. But then it also says how to do it. It says that, okay, maybe you can eat a goat, but it never says cow or bull or anything like that. Maybe you can eat a goat, but how to eat that goat? You can only eat once a month, on the day of Amavasya. And you have to go to this temple of Kali, which is at the outskirts of the city, and you have to go at midnight, and you have to kill the goat yourself by looking at the eyes of the goat, because when you look at the eyes of the goat, you will see the pain in the eyes of the goat. And so what happens when a person tries to do that repeatedly, by just observing that repeatedly, sooner or later something awakens within them, and they will feel this is not good. And they're supposed to utter the word mamsa. The very word mamsa means that I am eating you now, and you can eat me in your next life, in my next life. They're supposed to whisper that in the ear of the animal. This is the procedure that is given in the Tamasic Puranas. So yes, so it's there. But it's there for people who are in that low level of consciousness, and there's a procedure. But not indiscriminate eating of animals is never recommended. And also, yes, there is the whole animal sacrifice. Maybe some of you will ask me that question later, so I'll just answer that. So there is this process of animal sacrifice within our Vedic scriptures. But this whole animal sacrifice is also meant for a different purpose. It's not just meant to kill animals and eat, but rather one thing is that it is meant to test the power of the Brahmanas. They learn these mantras, and to test the power of the mantras that they've learned, how well they're actually uttering it, with what purity. Because when the animal is sacrificed and these mantras are uttered at the time of sacrifice, then they actually get a higher form of life immediately. So that is the purpose, and not something else. So it is to test. So it's a concession, it's not a license, and it's meant to elevate a person ultimately. Now another law of karma, human versus animal. So the laws of karma, they do not apply to animals. They don't have higher intelligence, as we discussed in the previous classes. Whereas in human life, It's a junction basically to either go up or down. In human life, we have a very clear choice because we have higher intelligence, we can discriminate, so therefore we can make this choice whether we want to go up or down. Whereas in the animal life, they automatically go up. So like the aquatic species, they're the lowest in the, in the whole species. And once that species, their life is done, they automatically go to the next higher level and the next higher level and the next higher level. So in the mode of ignorance, one level before human is said to be a monkey. In the mode of goodness, one level before human being is said to be a cow, like that. And the mode of passion, it's a lion, right? Mode of passion? I forget, yeah, lion, yeah. I get mixed up sometimes, yeah. So animals just automatically go up. And, animals are never fined. They can go jaywalking on the road and, they're not punished for that, but humans are punished. So that's another law of karma. Now, let's talk about the reactions. There is immediate reaction sometimes, as you can see. These two brothers fighting in the car, one brother pulls the other brother's hair and he will get it back immediately. And there is other delayed reaction sometimes. Here's somebody gambling here in the casino. He may actually win a big jackpot that day. So he's not experiencing any reaction for the time being. But he will experience a reaction in course of time. Paramatma is witnessing everything. And in course of time, he will experience something. Sometimes people ask, I didn't do anything wrong, why am I suffering? I just have been so nice to you all the time. Why are you being so mean to me? Well, we were mean to someone else before at another point of time, right? As we can see also, some seeds grow fast and some seeds take time to grow. Like a mustard plant will grow very quickly, or a bamboo plant takes a long time. So similarly, when we commit a sin, then when that sin is committed, there is stages. This is described in our Shastra. I'm not going to go into the details. But there is unmanifest reaction, manifest reaction, aprarabdha, and kuta and bija. These are the words used. So bija is the seed, kuta is the tendency to sin, aprarabdha is the unmanifest reaction, and aprarabdha is the manifest reaction. So our body, our present circumstances, whatever we are experiencing right now, that is prarabdha. It's basically the manifest reaction. And then there is other aprarabdha. In course of time, they will unravel, basically. So nice example that's given to illustrate this. These are silos, where rice is stored. So one farmer, in these silos, the opening is from the bottom, right? So one farmer, he stores third-class grains in the year 2001, let's say. Okay, and then in the year 2000, in 2002, he doesn't get a crop. And in 2003, he gets first-class grains and he pours on the top. Another farmer, he stores first-class grains in 2001 and third-class grains in 2003. Now he goes, both of these farmers tell their sons, oh, go get some rice. And he goes and gets rice. The son goes and gets some rice. And then the farmer says, well, I put first-class grains. Why am I getting third class right now? Well, because you put third class in year 2001, and that's what is coming out right now. This one is on the top, so we will reap the fruit at a later time. So that's how it is with our karma too. Like the example of Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. Everyone knows Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was a very sinful person. And we know that he lost all his 100 sons. And he asked, anybody, and the cruelest of person also, when they lose 100 sons, it's very painful. So he asked, why? why did I have to lose all my 100 sons? So it is explained that actually 50 lives ago, he went hunting once and he killed a mother bird. Actually, his arrow shot a mother bird in the eye and the mother bird became blind. So that's why he was born blind. And there were many baby birds. There were 100 baby birds and they all caught fire and they died. But he didn't experience the reaction right away, because to get a son, you need good karma. Without having some good karma, you can't get a son. So it took him 50 lifetimes to accrue that good karma. And then after 50 lifetimes, he got 100 sons, and then the bad karma, acted at that time. So we may not know what we did before. And that's why, we tend to, when we see just only our spot life, we tend to think in a particular way. We don't see what is beyond this spot life, what we did yesterday, today. There's much more to life than that. Or this is another example, some people, there are murderers, serial killers, 1 or 300, they may say it doesn't matter how many times I'm going to be sentenced to death, only once I can be sentenced to death. So you may escape the state law like that. But actually, again, Paramatma is observing, and this person is going to have to go through difficulty life after life after life, all through. So we can fool the state government, but not the laws of God. They're unavoidable. So our whole fallacy or misconception is this particular thinking that with the birth in this life, everything begins, and with death, everything is finished. So we see only this life, and that is our problem. And that's why we cannot figure out what is happening in our life, and we keep asking, why do bad things happen to good people? So we really have to zoom out a lot, We have to get the bird's eye view. Then there is individual karma, which we've been talking about. But there's also collective karma. Right? There are natural disasters. Sometimes a plane crashes, earthquakes or floods and hurricanes and fires, forest fires and stuff like that. And so many people at a time, they're killed or they suffer because of that. And this is collective karma. So sometimes Krishna puts all the different people who have a particular kind of karma, and he takes care of all of their karma together. God is capable of doing multiple things at once very perfectly. That's why it's very, very complex to understand how what happens. So we're trying to see all the different aspects of this karma. So he can accomplish many things with one thing. Like sometimes, somebody may get a child who's very, very handicapped. Why? Okay, it's the child's own karma, but also there's lessons for the parents. It's parents' karma too. And then there's family, it's the whole thing together. Now, we may say, well, I didn't know all these rules. I'm really sorry. Can I be excused? And we can say that. Can we try saying that to the officer who pulls us over when we're speeding? Well, I didn't know what speed I was driving at. I'm sorry. No, he will still give us the ticket. So ignorance of the laws doesn't actually protect us. It's not an excuse. Fire burns. Whether you know that fire burns or not, fire burns. Even a little child puts his hand in fire, fire burns. So ignorance of the laws is actually not an excuse. So now we're discussing all this karma. Now maybe a question comes up, do I have any choice? Or it's all just destined? Is there any choice? Is there anything I can do? So, sometimes we see that two brothers are born in the same family, but one is a businessman and one is a thief, right? They've both been given the same opportunity, but yet they come with their karmic baggage sometimes and they're following something. But yet, they still can make a choice. There is free will is always there. So we create a particular destiny based on our past actions, but there is always a free will within, so we may be born in a particular situation, but the choice of which direction to go, that is still there. Is it harder to make a particular choice? Yes, it is harder. If we are really pushed by the modes, as we're seeing, it is hard, maybe. When somebody is in the sattva guna, it's easier for them to make choices because they have clarity. When you're being pushed by ignorance, it's harder for them to make sattvic choices. But yet, we can learn, and the choice always remains. And we can take support and all that, and we can make the choice. So, just like we have a choice to get into any airlines that we want. There are many airlines, okay? And there are many places that planes fly to. But once we sit in the plane, then we have to go to that destination. In the middle of the, flight, we can't change our airline or we can't change our destination, right? So we can make a choice. We can choose our actions. At every moment of time, we can choose our action. But once we made the action, once we committed to the action, then there's consequences that we cannot escape from so much. But again, when that consequence comes, how we choose our future actions, that choice we always have, right? And oftentimes that's where we make mistake. We don't make our proper choices. So now we can say, okay, can we just balance it all out? Okay, I have a bunch of bad karma. I'll just keep doing good karma, good karma. Will it all get balanced out? No, it won't. We saw that in Dhritarashtra's example. Good karma and bad karma do not cancel each other. So somebody may be sometimes born in a rich family, and that's because of good karma. But they may be born handicapped. Or they may have a parent who doesn't give a penny to them. He's a miserly rich person. Very rich, but very miserly. He won't even give you a penny for your enjoyment. So it's mixture. So you have good karma to be born in this, but then also the bad karma of not enjoying it, right? So it doesn't cancel each other. So an intelligent person would not want to just cancel good karma or bad karma, but actually he would want to go beyond it because he understands that both are binding, whether it's good or bad. Because when you have a lot of good karma, you may go to heavenly planets even. But even you go to heavenly planets, you enjoy a lot, then it's just like finishing your credit balance, okay? Sometimes, so we keep earning, we keep working, and we build some bank balance. Then we go on a vacation. How long can you vacation? You can vacation for a month, 2 months, sometimes maybe for a whole year, sometimes some rich people. But we can't be on a vacation forever because the bank balance keeps going down. And similarly, when we keep using our good karma, our credit balance of the good karma keeps going down. And sooner or later, we'll have to come down. From the heavenly planets, we'll have to, go down to the earthly planets, and still we don't learn our lessons. We may have to go to the animal planets and so on, hellish planets. So we don't want either good karma or bad karma because both are binding. So then what to do? What is the solution? We said that we get karma with very activity. So what to do? So we have to do something called akarma, something that produces no reaction. That is called akarma. So here's a nice example to understand how to do akarma. Here's a soldier, okay? So when the soldier, he has a gun here, a rifle, and when he's fighting on behalf of the government, and even if he's killing people, is he put behind the bars? he's not put behind the bars, because he is only acting as an instrument. He's not doing it of his own accord. But suppose he comes back home, and during his vacation with his family, he takes his rifle and kills his neighbor because he doesn't like the neighbor, or the neighbor is acting like an enemy in some way, then he's going to be put behind bars. There's implication for that, because now he's not acting on behalf of a higher authority, so there's no protection. He's taking the law in his hands, so there's no protection. So he will be actually sentenced to death. So similarly, Krishna or God has given us many facilities. He has given us our body, our senses, and everything. And if we use those things as a service to Him, we do whatever we are doing, but we do it according to His authority, His laws. If we do that, then our actions actually become akarma, because everything actually belongs to God. And if we act according to God on His behalf for His pleasure, then what happens is, just as the government takes responsibility, God takes responsibility for whatever we do. And also, then we will be working for the real project, like this soldier is working for the real thing, and not just his own, his own selfishly motivated something. So it's not good or bad activities outside of that project. So this is what we are meant to do. This is the way to get out of the karmic cycle completely. It is not possible to get out of the karmic cycle otherwise, because we see that both good or bad karma, they're binding. So a karma has two benefits. One is that whatever you do as an offering to God, there is no reactions being produced. And not only that, but all your past reactions also get burnt up. It is said that if we can chant the holy name of the Lord even once purely, it can remove more reactions than you're able to commit. It says even the sin of killing a Brahmana can be removed just by chanting the holy name purely even once. Of course, it is an offense to chant the holy name for that purpose, that we do sin and then you just go chant the holy name. If you use the holy name like that, then that's an offense. That's not proper. Sometimes Prabhupada would like to compare that to the Christian way of, they go make a confession, every Sunday, and then they come back again the next Sunday, make another confession. That is no use, right? So, but if we keep doing our karma, all our reactions are burnt up, the good and the bad. So we don't have to enjoy for our good things, and we don't have to suffer for our bad things. And we can go beyond the material platform onto a transcendental platform. So you can see this in the case of Arjuna and Duryodhana versus Duryodhana. When Duryodhana fought, what did he fight for? He fought for his own selfish motivations, for power, name, fame, whatever, prestige, control. Whereas Arjuna, when he fought, he didn't fight for victory. He fought for Krishna. He didn't want any of those things. In fact, he said, I don't want all those things, so therefore I don't want to fight. And Krishna then convinces him to fight, but fight as an instrument. Krishna convinces Arjuna, and he says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear, because Arjuna was fearing that if I kill, I'm going to get sin. My dynasty will be destroyed. Who's going to be protected, and how will people be protected in future, and so on. So Krishna says, do it on behalf of me. Do it for the right purpose, and that right purpose was to reestablish the principles of religion, because Krishna is asking him to do. And we're finishing. So, does the effect of akarma ever go away? it never goes away. Krishna promises that in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says that in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. So even if you do a little bit of a karma, a little bit of devotional service, the result of that stays forever. You will get a chance to continue it in future. Whereas with good karma, bad karma, it's different. This is eternally deposited in your bank account and it will never get depleted, unlike the good karma. But you can add to it at whatever time you choose. Even if you do a little, it's wonderful. So, performing only a karma all through life, this is actually what is the true meaning of yoga. Because yoga means that which links us with God. And without coming to this platform, we cannot really truly connect or awaken our relationship with God. So, our recap, so we discussed if God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, then why are these different miseries there, or why do bad things happen to good people? How is it that we have suffering? And to answer this question, we went through these 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita. I'm not going to go into the details. I just want to end with a short 3-minute video here. That's our karma ghost cartoon. Any questions? And before, maybe some of you will disappear very soon, but before all of you disappear, I just need to ask, when can I do the next session? Last week I didn't do it because we tried to call everyone, but hardly anyone was going to come, and I didn't want to do it with one or two people. The thing is that next Saturday and the Saturday after that, we have something going on in the temple, so I can't do the next session on Saturday. Are you all open to do it on a weekday evening, to just finish that last session? Or should we do it after Labor Day weekend? That would be too long after. Hands, please. Who is okay with the weekday evening? 7 to 9? Or 6:30 to 8:30? It would have to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those days. I have a meeting on Thursday, a temple meeting, and Friday onwards there's a seminar, there's a book distribution seminar. Vaisheshika Prabhu is coming from San Jose. So there's a seminar all weekend. And then Labor Day weekend, we have another seminar. Actually, maybe Labor Day weekend I can do. If you want to skip next Saturday, I can do it on Saturday. But some of you may be out of town Labor Day weekend. What would you say? No opinion, one way or the other? Or you just don't want the sixth session? Huh? Weekday will not work for you. Okay. How many people are okay with weekday? Just 2, 3, 4, huh? 7 to 9, yeah. You're not okay. You travel on weekdays, okay. So should we just wait 2 weekends and do it after that? What would you like? Labor Day weekend? Are you all here? Are all of you here Labor Day weekend? Yeah? You're not here. Okay. You're not raising your hand for anything. Okay. So, all right. So maybe we'll do after 2 weeks. What should we do? Or if everyone else is there, then we'll do it Labor Day. You're there Labor Day weekend or no? You're not here. Okay. So only you two and you're here. So I just want it to be fair for everyone. Best, I would ideally like to finish it sooner than later, because the later we do, like, you forget the previous sessions. How about tomorrow morning, 11 to 1? Would that work for you? Yeah, it would work? Should we do tomorrow, 11 to 1? Can we actually do it at my house? Because temple gets a little, chaotic on Sunday mornings, too many visitors. Huh? Earlier than 11 to 1? How early? As long as everyone is okay, I'm okay. I just have to prepare my... Not 11 to 1. How early? Afterwards? I mean, I'm okay with 2 to 4, if that works with everyone. Does 2 to 4 work for everyone?
Yeah.
You're in cooking team. You can skip cooking team tomorrow. Your wife will come. Can we do 2 to 4? 2 to 4 tomorrow. Do all of you check the emails that I send? Because some of you don't respond at all. So it's been hard to actually contact all of you. Do you get my emails? She gets. So it would be nice if you can respond something, because sometimes I don't know what's going on if you don't respond. Or if you prefer WhatsApp, that's fine also, but I don't have every single person's phone number. We tried to reach you too last week, yeah. Okay. So we'll do it tomorrow. I'll just give you my address. We'll do it at our home. So because 2 to 4, it gets a little distracting in the temple room itself because there's a lot of visitors. And I live just 5 minutes from here. Yes?
I don't know, idea
7 to 9. It's a bit too early. It's a bit too early. Is it okay for everyone? 7 to 9? It's a bit too early, I think. 8 to 10. You have some soccer games or something for your children? Is that what it is? Let's do 2 to 4. I think we'll just keep it at 2 to 4. Okay? All right. Any questions, or maybe we can take questions over prasadam? Are you all disappearing? You're going to prasadam? Okay. All right. Because I want to make sure I give you my address, or I'll email it too, but make sure you send it. Okay. Okay. So should we do questions over prasadam? Some examples of akarma, yes, we're going to discuss that in the next week. But examples of akarma is basically devotional service. So it's chanting, hearing, studying scriptures, associating with the devotees, doing services, you know. And practically speaking, we can turn our whole life into a karma. And how? That everything that we do, we're doing it as an offering to the Lord and not for ourselves. So even when we are working, our work can be turned into a karma simply by performing the work with the right consciousness. That first of all, okay, why am I working? I'm working because I need some money to maintain my family and myself and my body, because unless I maintain my body, then how can I even do devotional service? We need a body to do devotional service. So therefore, I'm maintaining. But it's not so much just because I want to make a lot of money. You know, that's not the main goal. But it's for maintenance. And Krishna, you're providing this work by your mercy. It's not just by my hard work alone that, you know, the results are coming. And then when the results come too, we offer that. We use those results in His service. So when we are living a very God-conscious life, our entire life becomes a karma. There's no longer reactions for anything. Yeah. Yes.
Give example of a soldier.
Yeah.
Kill the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that may end up in killing enemies?
Yeah.
Similarly, a terrorist may be acting and is killing the innocent.
Well, terrorist is different from a soldier, isn't it? Yeah.
Is the terrorist accountable for our activity or
Where is the other mic? Okay. Yeah. Sorry, just the last part. I think I got what you said.
So is this the terrorist and the soldier both are accountable for that activity, or?
No, they're not. That's exactly what we're talking about. That the soldier who's acting on behalf of the government, definitely he's not penalized for that. Rather, you know, for killing the enemies, he's awarded medals and trophies, oftentimes.
If he kills any innocent people?
Yeah, even innocent people, he's protected, isn't he? He's protected. The government doesn't, provided he's acting, that there's a reason for killing the innocent people. Meaning that in course of trying to kill the enemy, sometimes innocent people may be killed. You know, of course they have their own karma too. In the case of a terrorist, the situation is slightly different. Meaning that this terrorist is not an authority of some kind, you know. And yes, there may be some innocent people who are influenced by this terrorist and they're doing it under the terrorist's, order. And it's not so much that they want to do it, but they think that, you know, like the whole jihad thing and all that, you know, they're thinking that actually this is the right thing to do. So in that sense, the reaction that the main head gets will obviously be much more than this person, but even this person is going to get reaction because, as we said, ignorance of the laws is not an excuse. You see? So terrorist is not God. He's not an absolute authority. He's not he's not a government or anything like that. And this person has chosen this wrong authority. And it's up to each of us to choose those right authorities. And therefore we have to educate ourselves. It's nobody's fault, actually. We can't just blame the terrorist. Yeah. You had a question? Speak into the mic, yeah, for the recording purpose.
Okay. So my question is a little bit extension to his question. Who makes authority? Like you just said, army is under authority, but
Yeah.
somebody is making terrorist authority also. Means who created this? Like
Yeah.
this country, that country, my country, your country, all of this. And terrorists also I feel like they are organized society at some place.
Yeah.
Then how you discriminate those two, who is working under influence, someone's influence?
Who is working under someone's influence?
Means they are working under authority.
Yeah. It's our duty to work under proper authorities. And who is a proper authority? That's for us to do that research. And so, ultimate authority is God, and God's laws are the ultimate. And the state laws are subordinate to that. Are some of the state laws breaking God's laws? Yes. Are some of the government laws breaking God's laws? Yes, they are. And for that there will be some reaction, but at the same time, because this person is working under the government and he's engaged in this war or whatever, there is protection in that sense. He's not, we have to use this is an analogy that is being used basically. So when the soldier is killing on behalf of the government, he is not penalized by the government, you see. But if the government was engaging in this whole war for the wrong reasons, right, which also happens in the current world, then yes, in the laws of God there's a reaction for that. So therefore we have to choose what we are doing very carefully, under whom we are doing and all that. That is our responsibility. So we can't say that, oh, somebody is this authorities and I was just following that authority. No. It's up, we have to, yeah. Like, I'll give you a simple example. When I was working, I was doing my NICU rotation. It's neonatal intensive care unit. And, when newborns are born, like premature babies, one of the things that we do, that they can't breathe, their lungs are not developed. So there is a medicine that we inject, it's called surfactant. And the surfactant is derived from an animal source, very clearly. It's a bovine surfactant. And at that time, I felt very conflicted. I was a very new devotee. It was my second year of practice, Krishna consciousness. I was feeling very conflicted each time I had to do that, actually. But I had to do it because I am under the, the law of the hospital, and I'm going through this training. And so I asked my spiritual master at that time, what do I do? I know that it's wrong, but I can't not do it. So he said, well, now that you're in this training, just do it knowing that, okay, it's not the right thing, but you're doing it because you're in this training. Well, once you come out, then that you're not going to choose this, or you're going to choose what you want to do carefully. Of course, still we have vaccinations and, so on. These things are there. But, yeah. Yeah. Is that okay?
Thank you.
That satisfies you or no?
Yeah.
Not fully. There's still that question mark on your forehead.
I think I agree. They are following the government rules and all that.
Yeah.
But similarly, let's say if soldier killing somebody, and let's say he get medal from this country, but that might not be the case for other country. It will be different situation. Like let's say if
Yes. Yeah, and then there's God's laws beyond everything. So therefore we have to choose our professions carefully. We can't say, oh, I work for a slaughterhouse, what can I do? Well, don't work for a slaughterhouse. choose a different profession, you know, like that. Yeah, you had a question? No, you didn't? Okay, I thought I saw your hand raised. You had a question. Last question, and then we'll go down, and if there's more questions, we'll take it over prasadam.
Does all the good karma fall under the category of akarma or?
No. No, that's what we discussed. Good karma and bad karma are different. So in Bhagavad Gita, the language used for good karma is karma. For bad karma, it's called vikarma. And for akarma, it's akarma. Akarma is basically devotional service. So good karma is not, like I said, good karma cannot remove bad karma. It's only a karma by which no reactions are produced, and also all the past reactions will be removed. Whether it is reaction of good karma or bad karma, both are removed. Yeah. Yeah, okay, last question.
Yeah, this question is behalf of Chandrika Mataji.
Oh, she's watching.
She's
okay.
watching.
Okay.
Her question is, does the actions on child have reactions?
Actions on child.
Have reactions.
Meaning that if you hit the child, if you abuse the child,
I don't know the exactly.
Chastise the child or something. Of a child, or?
Maybe I can ask her.
Well, maybe we can clarify later.
Okay.
But yes, as a parent, there's reactions if we don't treat our children properly. So these children have been awarded to us by Krishna, and the main duty of a parent is to awaken God consciousness within these children. This is a duty of a parent. And if we are not doing that, or we are doing bad karma by just scolding them, and not just scolding is okay, but the place from where we come within our heart, that is very important. The consciousness is very important. So raising our voice sometimes for the sake of disciplining, that's all right. But if we are just doing that in a fit of anger, we will get bad karma for that, definitely. But if we are using that anger just as a service, okay, I'm just consciously raising my voice for the sake of disciplining, that is very different. So yes, we get reactions. So usually with children, it is said what the activities that children do, from 0 to 5 years of age, it is said that they don't, their actions don't really produce reactions much. Very minimal, if at all, because they're not aware of things. After 5, yes, of course, to the degree that they understand a little bit, but then because it's the duty of the parents then to train the children properly. So training begins. Okay, yeah. So it is the duty of parents to then train the children. So training starts at the age of 3, 4, when they start getting little awareness. And devotional training, according to Prahlad Maharaj, should start at 5 years of age. Yeah. All right, so let's stop here. We'll continue downstairs. Okay? All right. It's getting late, that's why. Okay.